Hello everyone and welcome to the 15th episode of my GTA Online Racing series, and this is a bit of a longer one. You're certainly getting your money's worth this time because this is 20 minutes long, this video, and that actually becomes the longest video I've ever done on GTA Online. It isn't the longest video overall on my channel, that was an old Gears of War 3 video, but yeah, it's certainly the longest video I've done on GTA Online, and it beats, I suppose, the record set by the 13th episode of this series where I explained all the fastest modded cars, which was about 15 minutes long. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there first of all, just in case you do want to watch it all in one go and you don't have the time at the minute, you feel free to click off now and then come back to it later. But yeah, I'm going to talk quite a lot in this one and in depth and show you quite a lot as well, so it was necessary to have it at 20 minutes really. I couldn't really get it any less. And the reason it is 20 minutes is because you're going to see 7 full races basically, and I didn't want to cut out any part of these races, so some of the races do have boring sections in, like for example now I'm in front. Normally what I do in a 2-lap race like this is maybe cut it to the end or something, but I wanted to be complete in this episode. I wanted to show you the full race and show you the full experience of winning in every car that I had, so you can see exactly how it happened basically. So what's this video about? Well, it's basically me winning a race in every single supercar. There's going to be 7 races, 7 different supercars, and I'm going to win in every single one. But you might ask, why am I doing this? Am I doing this just to show off or something like that? No, not quite. I want to actually prove to all of you and everyone who watches this that you can win no matter what car you have. So all of these arguments about, oh, the Adder's faster, the Entity's faster, all of these different things, despite all of the testing that I've done to find the fastest cars, you can still use whatever car you want and be able to win. Because really there's so many other variables at play really in any race. There's racing against other people, there's other people in the lobby, they might affect what happens. There are how well you know your car, how well you know the track, also how good of a driver you are, basically, simple as that. That if you're not as good of a driver as anyone else in the room, it doesn't matter if you have an Entity, because you're not going to be able to beat them no matter what they have. Same goes the other way. If you are the best driver, you can win in a Bullet just as easy as you could win in an Entity if the other people aren't very good. So there's lots of other variables in a race, and I wanted to show that it's not all about the absolute best speed or the how quick the cars can actually go. So there were a few rules that I decided to set myself with this, because I wanted to make sure it was properly done really. And the first one was that it had to be a normal race, so it had to have corners. Essentially, the track, it had to be a proper Rockstar created track, have corners, take a little bit of skill to get around. It couldn't just be something stupid like the Commute or Criminal Records. It had to be a proper track. Also, traffic had to be off and police had to be off. That was just obvious. And the catch-up had to be off as well. Now that was basically because catch-up just equalises all of the cars. If you're behind in a Bullet, it's going to make the Entity up front slower than you anyway, so there's no point in trying it with catch-up on. So catch-up had to be off. Also, custom cars had to be off as well, so everyone was on a level playing field in that regard as well. A modded Vaca would probably be quicker than a standard Adder or something like that. So I wanted custom cars to be off so everybody was on a level playing field, and most of the time in these races everybody's in an Adder or an Entity anyway. So yeah, everything basically was off in that regard. It had to be 2 or more laps as well, because I didn't just want it to be a 1-lap lucky sort of win. It had to be a good length, so I've actually won a race properly. And also 5 or more people had to be in the lobby for the race. I couldn't just win against one person and consider that done. I had to win against a good few people to make it worthwhile. So yeah, you've seen the first race, which was in an Entity. I could have put any number of races there because Entity is the quickest car. I win in that all of the time. And now you're seeing a race in the Adder. And as you've just seen there was a little bit of a battle, little bit of a decent battle with the guys in front, and funnily enough it was the other 2 out of the 3 fastest cars, but they end up messing up. I cut up on the inside and get through, and that's it for the win. Basically I just do the second lap quite nicely on my own. But also, one thing that I will point out is these are the first times that I'd actually raced in these cars. Yes, I tested them for the fastest cars videos, but that was quite a while ago. It was quite a while before I actually raced in them, and I'd never done a proper race with other people in these cars. I'd only ever tested them around cutting corners. I'd never done them on any other track. So sometimes it was quite difficult, or at least I thought it would be quite difficult, just to get used to the cars in the first place. But there was only 2 cars that I actually didn't get on my first try, and the first one of those was the Cheetah. So the Entity and the Adder, which you've seen now, I managed to get on the first time, my first race with them. The Cheetah wasn't quite as easy, and you'll see that next. Basically the reason was that the Cheetah was the last one that I had to get. So I'd done all of the other cars, all I had to do was get a win in the Cheetah and the video was ready to be done. But I was racing against my crew, and there are quite a lot of really good racers in my crew. And it wasn't that easy to get a win in the Cheetah. Obviously, there was a few unlucky moments, I'd get hit, things like that, and as soon as you get hit on the first corner or something, you're not going to be able to catch up to other people who are good. But this was actually the first time that I'd managed to get into the lead in the Cheetah early on without having any problems, getting hit or whatever. And it was all done by that overtake around the outside, and that was probably one of the best overtakes I've done on GTA. I really enjoyed that overtaking move because it was round the outside. I had to brake later, carry the speed all the way around, and it makes it so much better when it's against someone who's also very good. The person in the pink Cheetah there, who I'm racing against now, and it's who I race against throughout the whole race, she's a very, very good racer, and I've raced with her a couple of times. She's very quick, and to do an overtake like that on that person is very good. It means a lot more when you do it against someone who's good as well. So yeah, it's basically us two going at it for the whole race, really. The everyone else who's in Entities is behind us. It's basically a 2-horse race, and both of us are in Cheetahs. So I was definitely going to be using this footage whether I won the race or not, because basically it showed that a Cheetah can win a race. It didn't matter that I hadn't won. A Cheetah would be winning a race anyway, against a lot of Entities behind us, and we were in a class of 2 in this race. We were just way out in front, as you'll see from the scoreboard at the end. But yeah, I do manage to, if you checked on the mini-map there, I was getting a little bit of a gap throughout the corners, but I can't actually get away because of the slipstreaming. Now, she's a very good racer, so she's able to keep up with me, and then the slipstreaming brings her back into contention. So here, as you can see, I nail this section here. I just get it really nice. I hook it up perfectly. I get a little bit of a gap on the mini-map, but the slipstream brings her right back onto my back, the back of bumper of my car. So yeah, this is coming right up to the end. I decide to go over to the defensive side, so she would have to go right around the outside to overtake me. And I could have chosen the outside lane there, but I didn't, and I think that was the reason it was so close. But yeah, as you can see there, she went around the outside. It was very close at the line. There was only 3/10 of a second in it or something like that. But as you can see, we beat all the Entities anyway. So yeah, that was a really intense race. I really enjoyed that one. It was fantastic. It was one of the most enjoyable races I'd done because it was so close. And I probably could have used the outside lane like she did at the end and maybe got the win a bit easier. I don't know why I decided to stick onto the road, but maybe I just wanted to play it safe. But yeah, it was very close, that one, and it was an excellent race. So we've got the Infernus next, and this one didn't work out as very, very well at the start, as you've just seen. I actually got hit, and this was, again, I managed to get this one on the first try, so this was the first race I'd done in an Infernus. Again, it is on Downtown Underground, unfortunately. There are 3 of the races that are on Downtown Underground. That's just how it turned out, really. That's where I got the wins. But yeah, this was the first race I'd done in an Infernus, and it didn't start very well, so I wasn't expecting to win this one. But yeah, everybody crashes there. Well, not everybody, but most of them crash there, which helped me out a lot. And I go chasing after the leader, who is in an adder, I believe. But again, circumstances can happen where other people will make mistakes, and that happens there again. The leader crashes, so I manage to get into the lead, and I don't look back from that point. And that's something that I want to get across, that just because you're in the fastest car, or even if you're not in the fastest car, it doesn't mean to say that you're not going to make a mistake. It doesn't mean to say that other people are going to make a mistake. it doesn't even mean to say that other people aren't going to just hit you off the road. There's so many different variables in a race that can happen, that even just beyond your own driving ability, that can affect how easily it is for you to win a race, no matter what car you're in. For example, all of those failed attempts that I had in the Cheetah against the good people in my crew, if I'd been in an entity during those races, I still wouldn't have won, because if you get hit off at the start, you're not going to be able to catch up to people who are close on pace to you anyway over the course of a short race like this. It doesn't matter what car you're in. Sometimes you just can't get the win if you're up against good people. But here, I was hit off at the start, but other people then make the mistakes, circumstances work well, and I managed to get a win in an Infernos. So yeah, as you've probably noticed, the order that these are going in is the reverse order of how quick they are. So theoretically they should be getting harder and harder to get a win with. This is from my fastest cars in GTA 5 video. Obviously they were stock cars, so that it's a reflection of how quick they actually are in these races. So yeah, we had the fastest car with the entity, and we're gradually getting slower and slower. So we've had the Infernos, and now we've got the Voltic. Now the Voltic was actually surprisingly easy to get a win with. This was, I think it was probably because it was on cutting corners. I mean, the amount of testing that I've done on this track, I know it's like the back of my hand. I can be very quick around here no matter what I'm in. And obviously I tested all of these cars around this track as well, so I knew them a lot better. I knew, for example, how the Voltic would act around this track a lot better than if I'd had to race it around Downtown Underground or something like that. I know how to take the corners with it and things like that. So I think if I'd done all of these on the same track, if I'd tried to get all of the wins on cutting corners, it probably would have been a fair bit easier, but that would have been a bit boring. It had to have a bit of variety in it. So yeah, I managed to work my way up to second, and he goes a bit wide at that point, and that's me in first. And the acceleration of the Voltic allows me to get away and get that gap, and they aren't even going as quick as me around the corners, despite having cars with better traction. So there's no way that they can catch me at this point, and this is another race won in the first lap essentially. I don't even need the second lap, but the second laps were important to have to make the win a proper win, because if you really were slower than everyone else, or you couldn't do it, people would be able to catch you up on the second lap, whereas that doesn't happen in these races. So these were legitimate proper wins, and it wasn't just lucky that I managed to get away on the first lap or something like that. So to those of you who know the actual lists back and front and inside and out, you know that next up after this one is the Vaca. Now the Vaca was a complete pain. Now it wasn't that I was racing against good people like the Cheetah. The Cheetah, as I said, I wouldn't have been able to win in an entity regardless. So it wasn't that with the Vaca, but the Vaca was the only the second car that I didn't get on the first try, and I could have got it on the first try if I hadn't have been knocked off. In the first race that I actually had it with the Vaca, it was on Vinewood Nights, and I got knocked off at the start. Over the 2 laps I managed to catch up with the entity who was leading, and then I managed to actually get in the lead, only to be knocked off on the second to last corner and got the win taken away from me. So I could have got it on the first lap if I hadn't have been shunted off completely. And even in the race that I do win, as you're seeing now, I get knocked off again. So there was something about the Vaca that people just didn't seem to like it. They didn't care. There was one race where I got hit off completely, just smashed into on the first corner, way off. I ended up coming back, getting the fastest lap, catching up to the entities, but there wasn't enough time left. So it wasn't that I was bad in the Vaca. It was just that I was getting unlucky. And as you've seen there, I did get a bit of luck, because the guys who had overtaken me and knocked me off ended up hitting things, and obviously they weren't very good races either. So at that point I'm in the lead again, and that's it for the rest of the race. I drive away from people. There are a few crewmates in here. If you pause, you can see the names in the top left. One guy does leave at some point. He must have been annoyed that he got beat by a Vaca. But there were a full 8 people in here. But it wasn't sort of like the cheetah where I was up against really top level people, because I was getting unlucky. I remember one of the races with the Vaca, I was coming up to this corner that you're seeing now. It was on the same track, and I completely missed this checkpoint. And I just couldn't believe it. I was in the lead, I was comfortable, and I missed the checkpoint, and that was one of the things. So, you know, it was just little things like that that were making the Vaca problematic. And it wasn't necessarily that it was difficult to get the win with. It was just like the cheetah was. It was just that it was people just didn't seem to like it, and people like to smash it all up. So yeah, but I did manage to get it in the end, as you're seeing here. And I hope that this video is really showing you that you can win in anything. You know, it doesn't matter if you're good enough, the opponents are bad enough, or the circumstances just go your way. It doesn't matter what you have to race with. So all of these arguments about which car to use, which is the better car, you know, it doesn't really matter in the end. You know, I've found the fastest cars over one single lap. You know, they are the absolute best cars to have in terms of outright speed per class over one single lap when they are pushed to their absolute maximum. Chances are they're not going to be pushed to their absolute maximum in normal races. You have to go for what's more comfortable for you. For example, I use the Gauntlet because over a 3-lap race, or even just against other people, it's a bit more of a stable car in the muscle cars class, even though it isn't the fastest over one lap. So, you know, it doesn't matter what car you use, you can win in anything. And if you aren't winning in your Adder, or if you aren't winning in, I don't know, your cheetah or something, I've shown in this video that you can win in anything. Maybe it's not the car's problem, it's probably that you're not driving it well enough. And the more you focus on being a better driver, the less emphasis will be on which kind of car you use, because you can win in anything. So yeah, I'll just point out there, I probably could have had the fastest lap if I hadn't have messed up on that last corner there, but what can you do? So yeah, here's the final race now. This is the Bullet, and if you remember from the fastest cars video, this was 5 seconds a lap slower than an Entity. So this was actually the first one that I actually decided to try, because frankly I thought if I can't get a win in the Bullet, then there's no point in even trying with the rest of them. But I managed to get it on the first try, so I was quite happy about that. You know, this is the first time I'd ever raced a Bullet, and it was such a pain. It was so hard to manage, to be able to manage it around the corners, and it was so slow as well, especially going up against an Entity and an Adder, which were the other two that I was mainly racing against. But as you can see here, I'm quite far behind. I'm in 4th place. If you look on the minimap, the guys in 1st and 2nd are way ahead, and although I get in the 3rd there, I still have to do a bit of a catch up to the guys in front. Now they helped me out a little bit, and to be honest, as you'll see, the way that they come back onto the track after hitting each other, if I hadn't got caught up in that, it probably would have been a lot easier a win than what it was. If he hadn't reversed into me there, it probably would have been an even easier win. But yeah, the Bullet was difficult, and just because it's so slow. As I showed, you know, 5 seconds a lap slower is a big deficit to try and make up, especially when you're getting hit all over the place like that. So yeah, you know, it was a tricky one. It was very tricky. But, you know, as you're seeing here, as you will see, I managed to get through it as well. You know, I managed to get the win with the Bullet, and most people would write off its chances completely. Just a little note here, the guy who was in 1st, I believe he misses this checkpoint because as you can see on the minimap, he sort of disappears. So I think he missed that checkpoint, and that's why I managed to get up in at 1st here. Obviously the Adder messed up, but I do have a fight with the Adder all the way to the end. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. It has been a bit of a longer one, but I did want to show every video in every race in full, just to show you, you know, that you can win in any single car. And it doesn't matter if you're not winning, it's probably not because of the car, it's because you're not driving well enough, or the circumstances in that race aren't going well for you, or anything like that. Just because the Entity is the fastest car over one lap on most tracks, and it's the one to use if you're up against really good people as well, it doesn't mean to say that you can't get wins in any other supercar against any random person. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I hope it wasn't too long for you. I'm going to have to get a glass of water now because I've been talking for too long. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, guys. Be sure to give it a like if you did. And thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I appreciate the support as always, and I'll see you next time.